You're listening to The Practicing Law Librarian. This limited series is part of PLI's Ever Current podcast, where we bring you insights and updates from legal thought leaders. Find additional episodes at pli.edu or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Karen Oesterle. Welcome to the Practicing Law Librarian podcast, presented by PLI's Legal Information Services Group. This podcast brings you conversations with and for the law librarian community. As a practicing law librarian myself, I've been working in legal information services for 34 years, currently with PLI's Library Relations Group. For this episode, I was thrilled to sit down with Alison Alifano and learn about her unexpected path to law librarianship. Completing her paralegal studies, she found she enjoyed legal research, and her several moves to increasingly more responsible positions included bringing the world of online resources to New York County Lawyers Association. With Alison, we focused on the breadth of her experience, patron services, and resources in 3 very different libraries. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Welcome, Alison. I'm so glad that we could do this. Thank you for joining me for this podcast episode.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure to see you. And now you live in the far Northeast in New England, and I don't get to see you that often. So this is great. I was looking at the notes, and I'm pretty sure we met around 1999. I was your Matthew Bender rep, and you were at NYCLA. But I have to ask, before that, I was looking at your AAO profile, and it says you have a paralegal certification. And I had no idea that you had that, along with the master's in library science, along with the bachelor's. So were you going to be a paralegal when you grew up? How did that happen?
No, that was not my path. I went to college to be a marine biologist, discovered that it really wasn't my calling. And my advisor, when I was in my 3rd year of college, said, you've taken every single science class you could possibly take. Why don't you take something else? And so I did, and I took a lot of government and law programs and classes and, music and other types of, more social programs. And it turned out that I really liked the law and the government classes. And so I took the LSAT and did horribly. Well, I didn't have any money, and you really have to take the prep classes in order to do really well on that. You have to learn how to take that exam. And so then I thought, how can I still stay in the law and government with no law degree? And so I ended up going to Adelphi to get a paralegal certificate. And my first job was doing a hybrid library paralegal job at Rosenman and Colin, Freund, Lewis and Cohen.
Wow.
Back in 1980, I think 83, 84. And it was the library work that I liked the best. I can still site check with the best of them, but I really enjoyed the library work. And the director there suggested that I might want to go to library school. And I started library school when I was at Rosenman and Colin. Then I moved to White and Case and completed my degree at White and Case. And then I went on to Hughes, Hubbard and Reed, and then to New York County Lawyers, and then to Sullivan and Cromwell. So that's how it all started.
That's very cool. Right, because your advisor said you've used up all the science courses, take some other things.
Denise Hassel was the associate director at that time. The director was an older man his name was John, but I can't remember his last name. And Denise was the one she had a master's in library science. John did not.
Right.
And at that time, that
people
wasn't
with experience.
Surprising. Right. Yeah. And so she is the one who suggested that I go to library school and get my master's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good advice.
Yes. And then you went, so how did you move from Hughes Hubbard? So you'd been at 3 firms. You'd been at Rosenman and White and Case and Hughes Hubbard and Reed, which are all big, respectable firms. What made you leave Hughes Hubbard?
I got recruited. There was a recruiter who called me about the director job although it was called Chief Law Librarian at New York County Lawyers Association, and to interview for that position. And I did. And it was actually the president of the association at that time was with Sherman and Sterling. And so he brought in Jack Ellenberger to interview me as well. And it was Jack that recommended they hire me, I think.
I didn't realize you were a Jack Ellenberger story. I never met him, but there's so many librarians in New York who owe it to Jack Ellenberger.
Yes, he was fabulous. And I learned a lot from him. He was a very before his time, yet traditional person. Brilliant.
Yeah, he sent all kinds of people to library school, inspired lots of people that are still working in New York to go to library school and become law librarians. Okay, so you were at New York County Lawyers for 8 or 9 or 10 years, something like that. And then you went back to a firm. What made you go back to Sullivan and Cromwell?
Jennifer Risch was the director at Sullivan and Cromwell at the time, and she was the director at Hughes Hubbard and Reed, and I was the associate director at Hughes Hubbard and Reed. And she asked the firm to create a position for me at Sullivan and Cromwell because she could not keep up the pace without help. It was a very busy firm, one of the best law libraries at that time, and probably still is. And she recruited me, and that was a very interesting interviewing process, I could tell you that. Yeah, so that's how I ended up there. And then I was there for 13 years. It was a very intense job.
Yes, I remember. I would come and see you there.
Yes.
And so you said 13 years there. Okay, running Sullivan and Cromwell. And then came your move to New England. And when I asked you about it, because we talked, around that time, you got married around that time, and I said something about, how did that work? And you said, you were talking to Downs Rachlin about, excellent librarian service and the kind of things that you could bring to them. And one of the interviewers said to you something like, why would you leave New York for here? And you said 2 things, quality of life. And they all sort of nodded and chuckled because they agreed. And second, you said, why wouldn't you deserve the same kind of excellent service, excellent librarian work that Sullivan and Cromwell had? Is that accurate? Am I remembering it right?
Yeah, I forgot I said that, but I did, yeah. It shouldn't make any difference what size firm you're in. The quality of service that you provide should be the same. I mean, if you're not a service-oriented individual, then librarianship is really not for you. You really have to be committed to training and service and helping, just generally helping people in no matter what they ask you to do within reason, of course, because we are talking about libraries and librarianship. But my job has morphed into well beyond the walls of a traditional or non-traditional library at Downs Rachlin.
Well, I want to ask more about that. But the work that you did at NYCLA, at New York County Lawyers, you were in charge. You were chief law librarian, like you said, chief librarian. How was that work different from what you did at Sullivan and Cromwell? And how was that different from what you did when you started at Downs Rachlin and what it's morphed into now?
Well, it's a not-for-profit, first of all, which makes things much more difficult from a monetary perspective, certainly. And you're trying to provide the same level of service to 10,000 members, because at the time we had 10,000 members. And you report to a board of directors and an executive director. And because it was an old association and the building itself was old, we didn't have the infrastructure to bring in a lot of technology. So I had to spearhead that, bringing in computers at the reference desk and making, online research available to the members. And that kept going beyond after I left with Ralph Monaco, who took over after me. So it was very different because you're very accountable in ways that you're not at a firm, very wed to the budget. You also help with the membership in general because you're part of the overall staff of the association and you all work for the members. It's an interesting dynamic. It was not unheard of for me to be crawling around on the floor to plug something in or to find an outlet, to plug something in. That is not something you would normally do in a law firm per se. I mean, sometimes, and I've done that before, but you set up your own equipment, you do everything basically. And in firms or bigger firms, at least, you have much more support than you would have there.
And different groups,
that's part
of the
of
maintenance group and the building group and the staff
Right.
and the cleaning people and all of
Right.
that. No, I had no idea that New York County was ever that big. I didn't know how many members they had. So that
Yeah, it was quite
one that
large.
brought in the online
I started,
services.
yes, and I cannot remember if it was Lexis or Westlaw at the time. I want to say it was Lexis, but I'm not sure. But we only had it at the desk. Ralph expanded it outside the confines of the reference desk.
Okay. And then Ralph, you know this, but I'll just mention it for the podcast. So Ralph, after he was there, went to a firm on Long Island, but then he came to NILE, New York Law Institute, where I spent 7 years. And so that was kind of a cool little, circle. And so then you went to Sullivan and Cromwell, big, very impressive firm, very famous, well-known firm, and Jennifer recruited you over there. And so you were number 2 in the library, but you had under you had tech service and you had the reference people. So expectations met there, or how were they set, I should say, because we always want to set expectations for our patrons, so they don't think they have you 24/7.
Well, they basically did have them 24/7. Since we had library staff in Europe and on the West Coast, we were close to 24/7, and we had coverage on Saturdays as well out of New York. So we weren't exactly 24/7, but we were covering as much of the week as we possibly could.
You were close. You were close to 24/7. No, I remember that.
We were close.
I remember that when I would call, after hours, because I'd be answering a question and I could leave voicemail, but somebody would always answer the phone, no matter what time.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, I expected just to get voicemail. But they would put me through. There were real people working at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't unheard of for Jennifer Rye to be there till 8 o'clock at night. And Jennifer Risch, who was the director. Brilliant woman.
Wonderful.
Yeah, brilliant. Just really a great person to work with and for. She had a very interesting way of looking at things that were different from me. She grew up in the South. I grew up in the North. And we had totally different ways of approaching things, but we came together well.
I always liked her very much.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about if you don't have that service orientation, if you don't have a helping mode of being, then you have no business being a law librarian. And I'm guessing that was the same. Those are the kind of people you selected?
Yes. Yes. You had to. The reference librarians at Sullivan and Cromwell were some of the best in the world, probably. They were experts at the kind of work that the firm did. And does, for that matter, because a lot of them are still there. So they would pull things out of a hat, basically, that you would just be stunned. So it was very special to work with them. I still have a lot of respect for them, even more than 10 years later after I left. It was an amazing team, and they were a team. They supported each other. We supported them. And in that case, the firm. Because it's all about supporting the lawyers and therefore supporting the clients. That's what you do. That's the job of a librarian in a firm. You are client-focused. Something that I can do here that I didn't do at Sullivan was I interact with the clients a couple of times a year at least directly for the lawyers. Yes, they allow me to, reach. If a client reaches out with a question that they know I can do without having any interference or any input from them, they send the email to me and they get copied, but I interact with the client directly.
Excellent.
Which was really an interesting flip from big firms, which usually that doesn't happen necessarily.
And at New York County lawyers, you probably had more of that direct contact.
Direct contact with the members, yes.
So you went from that kind of direct contact to at Sullivan and Cromwell, really working closely with Jennifer and your staff, but not so much directly with clients. And now you're back.
Not with clients, but with the lawyers.
Right. Yeah. And do you want to talk about what else your job has morphed into? Because you said you're doing a lot more with the attorneys now at Downs Rachlin than when you started. Were you hired strictly as reference, head of reference? What was your title when you came over?
No, I was manager of library and research, and that's still my title. But I also am conflicts manager and records manager as well. And I handle all licensing and attorney admissions across the firm in states and courts. And I also manage all the continuing legal education and memberships. The thing that has been happening over the last couple of years that I really like is I'm moving more into risk management from a conflicts perspective. And I work really closely with the firm's general counsel on risk, all types of risk. I'm on the risk management committee. Previous managing partner appointed me to that committee. And the more I learn and the better I get at it, the more responsibility I have. And I really like the risk management part of things. I love conflicts. I think it's really interesting. I mean, I'll scorch the earth for you on a reference project, no doubt about it. But I do enjoy the risk management piece of things, which I find fascinating. And the records management is any librarian at AALL will tell you that if they're handling records management, oh boy, is it a bear. It totally is.
You mentioned CLE earlier, and that you're in charge of the continuing legal education as well. Mm-hmm. Do you guys use PLI for that?
We do.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
We picked that up in, we must have it 5 years now, 6 years.
You signed it up? I mean, you made the move from whatever they were using before to using us.
Yes. One of the lawyers got a cold call, something that I really don't like, but okay. But at this firm, the lawyers know who to call about that stuff. They're not going to go signing up for anything without checking first. And I knew the quality of the product. So when he brought it to my attention, I said, okay, let's do a trial. Let's look at it. I know about this already. You may not, but it's something I'm aware of. It ended up, we have several lawyers who came from large firms in New York City.
Right. So they're
Boston,
used to it.
Who also had PLI.
Yep.
So they knew the quality of the programming. They knew. They said, oh, yeah, we want to do this. And it is not an inexpensive resource by any stretch, but it's quality product.
And well worth it.
Well, it shows the firm's commitment to its lawyers and the lawyers' education.
And we try to make the administration, as easy and seamless as we can to add value.
Oh, yeah, it's not hard. It's not difficult to use.
Okay, good.
It can be handled, and I'm handling it. But boy, it's a challenge. So that's more than what I came on board for. And I think part of that is my own doing, honestly. Wow. I'm like, sure, I can do that. Sure, I can do that.
Now, do you have staff or are you the only librarian?
I'm the only librarian, but I have two and a half people on my team. But they're mostly doing records and conflicts. I do have someone that helps me with the library end of things, but really that's just from an administrative perspective, not doing research. I mean, in a firm of this size, we have 60 lawyers, maybe 61 now. I let them know that I'm going to be away and to prepare them so that they're aware. And I do monitor my email when I'm away every day. It's just my thing. Not everybody does that, but it helps me to make sure if I can answer a question, doesn't matter where I am, and I can answer them.
Right, because then it's off your plate and they've got their answer and everybody can move on. So two things. How would you predict the future of law libraries? And how would you predict the future of your job there? Because it sounds like they're going to keep adding things to your plate as long as you're open to it.
They're not adding anything else to my plate. I'm no longer open to that.
Okay, so you're done.
Yeah, no, I can't take on anymore because then I can't do it well. And that's a problem for me. Right now, I have one team member who's out, and that is stretching my, daylight hours dramatically. And I cannot keep up.
Right, so you've decided we can't add anything more. I can't be efficient.
Yeah, so I can't. And the management knows that. And I think they're fine with that. They understand that I'm done with being able to take on anything else other than discrete little projects or something. That's different. What did you just ask me? Oh, dear.
So predicting the future of law libraries in a broader sense.
I think that's a good question. That is a very good question. I don't know. I think that we will continue to be here because the value is obvious when you have an opportunity to work in a firm of this kind, because you can provide a level of input that someone without the training and information wouldn't be able to provide. Like I can do conflict searches and run them in a way that my team can't because they just don't know enough. Although they're excellent, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not being negative about them at all. They're fabulous. But there are some things where I can make a judgment and they're not going to be able to. And it just comes from experience and work in firms and in this firm, and knowing, since I'm on the admin team and we are the administrative management team for the firm, so we're running the business of the firm. And so there are things that I'm privy to that they aren't. When a lateral comes in, I do those conflicts checks for the directors, and that doesn't go to my team. When we have new attorneys coming in, even if they're not a lateral, I do the conflicts check on those to ensure that we're not missing anything.
Well, I was going to say you have a much broader knowledge of what the firm is doing and what the firm is involved in, and deeper as well because of the time there.
Yes, it's over 10 years now, which is shocking to me.
It was shocking to me too when I realized it was 2014. Yep. Totally
shocking to me that time can move that quickly. It shouldn't be shocking, but it was nevertheless. So yeah, that past experience and current experience give you insights that you wouldn't necessarily have if you didn't have that. And so you can make, even if you can't articulate why you made that judgment, you did. And you're usually right because you inherently know, like librarians who do research all the time,
right?
They inherently know they're missing something.
Right.
They just know. They're like, that can't be. There has to be something else. What's the hook? What am I missing? How can I hook into that, piece of information? What do I need to do that? Yeah, it's interesting. But the risk management, my job in large part now is to eliminate risk or mitigate it as much as I possibly can, and to alert if I see something that I think is questionable. So I think that's an important role. And you did ask me, how do I view my role here going forward? I'm hopeful that when I retire, they will replace me. Now, will they be able to replace me with somebody like me? No, they shouldn't. I think, in also an answer to your question about how do I view law librarianship in the future, I think those of us who are senior in the field, have worked in the field for many years, when we are ready to go, what I want to open a spot for someone young who can come in and look at things a little bit differently. I'm not bothered by that. It is what it is. And they should come in and they should look at it differently, and they should bring different skills than I have.
What you were saying about Jennifer. She had a way of looking at things and a background, and you had a way of looking at things and a background. Yeah. And you guys did not come from the same background. And so you were able to bring different viewpoints and work well together. And I think that's what you're saying about whoever comes to succeed you, not replace you, but succeed you with new background and new skills. And that's sort of, that's sort of tied to what I'm asking about, so new viewpoints, new outlooks is one way that libraries will change. Yeah. Do you see the service element changing at all? I mean, it's clear that attorneys do lots more of their own online work than they did when we started. Everybody's got a desktop, everybody's got all their own passwords, and they can get into everything the firm offers.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Well, maybe a little bit different because people are able to do more themselves than they were, as you said. So I don't think that it's going to go away, though, no, because there's a skill level that we have that they don't have.
Right.
I don't have their skill.
Exactly.
In areas, they don't have mine. Yep. Right? So they come together and they complement each other, but they're not looking to be me. I'm not looking to be them. And I think that will continue. And I think the better quality, the better service you provide, the more opportunity there is for that to stay. Because, and I'm not blowing my own horn, but I've provided excellent service here for the last 10 years and elevated this position to do things and to be responsible for things that the previous librarian just wasn't responsible for because things have changed. And it wasn't, she was brilliant in her own right.
Exactly.
But it was a different firm then. It's a different firm now. So there's that. So you have to morph with the times. And I think that the young librarians will do that. They will. And maybe they won't be just reference. Maybe they'll be doing a lot more than that.
I was going to ask you about trends in libraries? What are you seeing as trends? And you've mentioned a couple already. And one is that the librarian's team's job expands. A lot of people are doing records. A lot of people are doing conflicts management. Risk management, that's a rarity.
Yep.
And that's a credit to you. But what other things are you seeing as trends in libraries?
Personally, I am eliminating the publications in print as much as I can because I want the lawyers to be able to work anywhere and have access anywhere. Now, sometimes the costs involved in that are not conducive to actually completing that cycle. I can for most everything, but there are certain publications where I cannot eliminate it print at this time.
Was that prompted by COVID, or you've been working on that path anyway?
I've been working on that since I got here. I have been slowly but surely chipping away at that because I wanted the lawyers to be able to work wherever they could. They should be able to provide client service no matter where they are. And COVID, yes, you're right, Karen. COVID did increase the speed of that into warp speed.
Right. But you were already on that path. And Niley was already on that path.
Yes.
I mean, God bless Alyssa. She had gotten us all laptops, and we had even, before COVID hit, we had even okay, everybody take it home, work from home for a day, one at a time, see if you can do everything remotely. Yep. So we had tested that a little bit, before it hit us. But some firms were completely unprepared.
Yes, this one was not one of them. We all had laptops. There were some directors who really didn't want laptops. And so they were working on desktops in the office. Right. Well, the COVID took care of that problem. Now everybody has a laptop, including all of our legal administrative staff. Everyone has a laptop now. I had one. I got one immediately when I got here, which was different from Sullivan and Cromwell. They would not give even high-level administrators a laptop at that time when I left. It was a different world. So I had to use my own laptop. Here, for security purposes, they were like, oh, no, you take ours. Right. Ours has all the security layers on it. We're good. We immediately got multiple screens. I have 3 screens in my office so that I can run from screen to screen as I am working on different projects. So this firm was prepared for that. But the IT team, like firms all over the world, went into high gear to provide what was needed for lawyers and staff to work from home if they could, if their job required them to do that, because not every job can be
remotely, right.
Done
but
from
that's a trend you recognized. You were working on that when you got here, and then COVID hastened it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't an edict from the firm per se. I just thought that is the way things are going, and we need to be moving in that direction, and it's not going to happen overnight. So let's just start working on it now and move through and eventually eliminate the paper to the extent that I can. I still have some, but very little.
So how do you see, to me, that sounds like a long-term move to more electronic, and less paper and less physical plant and less hard copy. Mm-hmm. So as part of that, or maybe related to that, how do you see the future of technology in your firm? In your library?
In my library? I think we're going to be all digital eventually, completely.
You're almost there.
We are almost now. And the firm is very committed to providing the level of technology needed to protect the firm, first of all, and also to provide whatever services are needed for the lawyers so that they can continue to provide service to the clients at the high level that DRM expects them to perform at.
But do you guys do things like have a portal where clients can submit documents and lawyers, so it's all secured? Okay. So you guys have done that probably a while ago. Okay. So you're moving even more than where some people are. And how about the future of artificial intelligence in your library?
That it's just me. So it's hard for me to really get involved on some high levels with AI. I am on the firm's AI committee because I asked to be. But the AI that I'm using here is embedded in the products that I'm using. There's not anything separate that I have right now. And I don't foresee for my size library and the outlook of this firm having any right now. For the library, for the firm, though, it's different. we may end up picking up some various AI tools going forward. But I think first you need a policy in place, and you have to have a set procedure to vet these things before you start. Otherwise, you put the firm at risk and you put the clients at risk, and we cannot have that.
Yep. Well, you stood up. I was sitting next to you. You stood up in AALL in Boston last summer in one of the AI sessions that we were attending. And you said, you got to have a policy. You have to have a policy in place. Just what you just said. You have to have a policy in place. You have to be careful about this stuff or you're risking everything.
Yeah, AI is fascinating, but it can be dangerous to a firm if they're not careful. I wouldn't say don't do it. I would just say do it carefully.
Right. But like you said, it's embedded in everything now. It's in Microsoft. Bing is always popping up.
To certain degrees, yes. Varying degrees, yes, depending on what you're using.
Right. It's in Lexis. It's in Westlaw. It's in, all these sorts of places.
And that's good because it's helpful in some cases, not in all. It's helpful.
I think your career is fascinating. I didn't know you were a paralegal. I didn't know you were trained at that. I didn't know you volunteered at libraries. And somebody said, you should get a library degree. What do you wish you had known when you started as a law librarian, when you started at Rosamond and Collin? Are there things you wish you had known that you would tell people now?
No, because I guess in my head, that makes it, I'm very satisfied with my career. I've done a lot over the years, successfully and not so successfully. I'm very fortunate to work with amazing people, both librarians and lawyers and others in other departments. So I'm really satisfied. Here's the analogy I'll use. When I'm training incoming lawyers and summer associates in particular, and young lawyers who are coming in for the fall, I changed my whole tactic about how I train them. They don't need me to tell them how to use Westlaw. They already know how to do that. Or Lexis. They know how to do that already. What they need to know is, how does the firm work? How do I succeed? What do I need to do to be successful here? And so I talk to them about recognizing what they don't know.
Right.
You do not know what you don't know. So therefore, you don't know what to ask sometimes. You literally don't know. So you have to do some preliminary research, and that they should conduct what librarians call the reference interview when they're talking to and getting assignments from a director or a senior lawyer, and ask all the questions. Think about what you need to ask them, because you don't know what you don't know. So when I was young and started here, I did not know what I did not know. So I can't even say I don't know. I'm not sure what I would have wanted to know at that point. I was learning and enjoying the process.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that because, get as much as you can when they're giving you that assignment, because they're not going to be easily available to you when you think of something else tomorrow that you should have asked them. It may be a while till you can get back to them, or they can get back to you. No, I love that.
Right. And how do you track what you're doing? And you better track it. You need to know where you got the data that you're adding to a memo or a brief or just an informational document that you're sending back. It could be a simple email, but you better know where you got that data from, because when the lawyer comes back and says, where did you get that from? You better know.
And you're not going to remember it if you don't write it down. Or you can enter it on a screen, but you have to track it.
Yes. And so that's what I talk to them about, how to succeed, and little tips and tricks I've learned over the years that they need to be aware of, which they may not know as summer associates. They don't know. They're in law school. They're first year or second year. They don't know.
They don't have a clue.
No, they don't know. But they so want to succeed. And so I view my job as helping them with that process. I want them to succeed and do well. It's a benefit to the firm as well as my teaching and, the work that the firm is giving them and their ability to carry out that work.
No, I love that. That's my key for what we just talked about. You're here to help teaching them how to succeed, not teaching Westlaw, not teaching Lexis, right.
No, they don't need that. Sure, do I tell them what we have? Yes, I tell them that. And I show them where it is and whatnot, but I don't go into a lot of detail about that. They can come back and ask me that, and they know I'm available to them all the time. And sometimes they just come in and they want me to just talk to them about it.
Tell them they're on the right track.
And figure out what the search strategy is. Like, I did this. How would you do it? Because they're not finding what they think they're finding. And I think one of the things that's important for young lawyers to know is that they're not going to always get a positive outcome on a research question. It's not law school. It's practice. It's different. There's often times where it's no and not yes, or I don't know and not yes. Your job is to figure out how to spin that to the benefit of the client.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, you've done that yourself, where you have to say them, well, maybe the answer is no.
I've looked everywhere, and we haven't found anything that backs this up. So that's what you're going to have to go with.
Mm-hmm. But it's hard to learn that lesson. If you're not expecting it, you think, I must be wrong. You're young. You don't have that life experience yet. They think they did something wrong. Well, not necessarily. They might have done it differently than I did, but that doesn't mean we're not going to come to the same conclusion.
No, that's key. I asked these questions and I shared them with you before. What are the most important learnings you would share with fellow law librarians? But you just gave me some of them. Are there other?
Yes. I think, important learnings, I think, are librarians are service-oriented, right? You have to be. You have to keep asking questions no matter where you are in your career. The reference interview really works. And I think one of the key aspects, certainly in firms and probably in all types of libraries, is the IT department is your partner. It should be your partner. It should not. And it is your partner in your quest to provide excellent service to the lawyers and the clients. And that's, in the firms that I've worked at over the years, that wasn't always the case. It is at Downs Rachlin, because we have an outstanding service-oriented IT department. And they should be your partner. They should be helping you, and you should be helping them. So that's really, I think technology is so important that you have to work with them.
Exactly.
And help them when they
need it. You're both working for the firm. I mean, you're working for the same people, for the betterment of the attorneys, for the betterment of the clients. But it's easy to lose track of that.
It is in the day-to-day, Karen. It is, because you're just trying to get the job done. And it's very difficult sometimes to keep that in mind.
Have you seen in any of the places you've worked, some place where that didn't work out, where the relationship was not good and that impacted operations or impacted the library?
Yeah.
But here you're saying you've seen it works really well.
They're amazing. But they're your team. I didn't have to say I need a laptop. I don't have to say more than one time that I need another screen. I get a screen.
Right.
It's like, okay.
It shows up.
And I get a screen.
Shows up.
I need another screen. Okay. Because they know that I'm not just asking for a screen.
Right.
Just because. It's because I need to do my job.
Yeah. And you have this document open and this spreadsheet open and this manual open, and you can't keep flipping back and forth.
Right.
Because it's not the way our minds work. You need it to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah. And now with everybody moving away from landlines, right?
Yep.
We're using Zoom for calls and Teams for calls. We have no landlines anymore. It's all through the laptop, So it's interesting.
And I think some of that was COVID. So thinking post-COVID hybrid work environment. Did you see any change, or do you think that changed people's expectations, your attorneys' expectations about service?
Not my attorneys. They were getting the same level of service that they got.
Do you think more broadly in the law firm world? Do you think that changed?
I don't know. That I don't know. I would imagine it must have. It had to have. Because it changed the way people think. It changed the way they work. It changed my ability to concentrate on a personal level. I don't particularly care to work from home.
Your preference.
It's never been my utopia.
Okay.
I don't want to work from home. I can, and I have a lovely office. I have a big screen. I'm fine. But it's not my preference. I like to be here, working in the office. I want the lawyers to walk down and talk to me about what they want.
And to see you.
Whether it's library related or something else. Yeah, it's important to me. That I find important. And everybody is different. And the firm allows hybrid work. So I could work from home part of the week if I wanted to.
But you're in most every day? Because your commute is not a New York commute. Yeah. 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Right. I'm commuting on beautiful Vermont roads.
No, it's funny when going back to something else you said earlier, and we agree on this, to be a good librarian, you have to have that service orientation. You have to want to help people. Have you seen over your years people that didn't have that?
Not personally, no.
Good. So
all the librarians that I've worked with over the years have been
wonderful,
very service oriented. But we're a different generation than a generation coming up, and I think if you choose this path, somehow inherently you are going to be service oriented in some way. You're going to want to help someone answer a question, and that in itself is inherently service oriented. Yeah. Service orientation, I should say.
Well, we ranged kind of far afield, but I'm so glad that we spoke. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything I've forgotten to mention?
No. The last thing you wanted to know was what I last read.
If you want to talk about that.
The last thing I read was Harvey Fierstein's memoir.
I Was Better Last Night.
I Was Better Last Night. Fabulous. And if you can get the audiobook, it's amazing.
Oh, does he read it himself?
He's hilarious.
Oh, man. I'm a big fan.
Reads it himself. He's fabulous. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. And the audiobook is even better.
Terrific. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to The Practicing Law Librarian, part of PLI's Ever Current podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to our latest episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. And to learn more about the Practicing Law Institute, please visit pli.edu. To learn more about PLI Plus, which provides electronic access to the full collection of PLI Press publications, and schedule a demo with a member of our team, please visit pli.edu/plus. Please note that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast represent those of the individuals being interviewed and not necessarily those of PLI.